Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. You are looking at the Necchi Supernova Ultra Mark II. This is the Necchi Supernova model that came out after the first Supernova, which is you often see in both the green and cream color scheme. This is this particular one. This Supernova Ultra Mark II also came in a green and cream, but this one is in a pink color. And let's see, in this video installment, I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to be putting the hand wheel back together. This, of course, is the bushing collar piece that goes inside the opening of the hand wheel, and it also attaches on this side to the drive shaft right here. So we're going to be putting this back together today. I was talking to you guys about the hand wheel last time in terms of getting it clean. We've gotten it all lubricated and smooth. And again, we are always wanting to utilize, I think I showed you guys, I used the 99% alcohol here to clean off the film. Even if you don't see very much discoloring, it's good to always go, and we did this last time, cleaning that old film of oil off. It takes very little old oil to basically cause parts to freeze up and stick. That's particularly true of Necchis because Necchis were built with a, oh my gosh, the quality of engineering of these machines are amazing. And for those of you who, excuse me, who are looking to purchase or sew with a Necchi, many of the vast majority of the procedures you've been seeing me do on this machine are not, I want to repeat, they are not part of normal maintenance. This is basically, this machine's getting a full overhaul and restoration. That's not something that happens often, and you as an owner don't really need to do any of these things unless you've got an old machine that hasn't been overhauled. Typically, you'll be adding oil to the oiling points that your owner's manual calls for when you start a new project. And of course, you always want to get down and open up and keep your feed dog area clean of lint. That's something you should do with any sewing machine, no matter what brand or even what vintage for that matter. But today, because we've gotten these parts cleaned, I've added a drop each on the threads of these screws, or bolts really, and even put one on the inside here and here. Now, one thing to note is that the screws that go into this piece are not the same. If I take, for example, if I hold this bushing in my hand, you'll notice that one of the bolts, I'll take it and hopefully not drop it on the floor, is shaped, it's got a little torpedo shape on the front, like a cone shape there, okay? And it goes here, doesn't go over here. And if you're concerned about maybe, oh my gosh, what if I mix these up? Is there any marking that tells me where they go? You could, if you wanted, you could put a little spot of nail polish on top if you wanted, or you can also note, if you look at the bushing in this direction, look at it head on. You see the notch? This notch, reminds me, I gotta clean that. This notch is where, when we put the whole hand wheel back together, you're gonna see the little tooth on the clutch knob washer, which is what this piece is. It's going to line up, and you can see with the little opening here on the bushing, it's going to line up there. So the the bolt that has the little cone shape is going to be, if you look at the piece head on, this is the one with the cone shape. It lines up with a little gap. Make sure that when you put these back together, if you're not sure, just look here, look for the little opening for the washer tooth, and make sure that your cone tipped bolt lines up with that. And that way you won't get them mixed up, because if you do, it's going to impact your ability to use this when you go to wind a bobbin. The other bolt has a flat end. It reminds me of the little barrel. In fact, these are often called barrel screws. And let's make sure we don't get this backwards, because again, I want the end with the deep area where my Allen wrench is going to go. Don't want to reverse that either. If you're not sure, just look at the other end. It should not have that deep hole. and I'm going to be putting this back in here. I'm not putting them all the way through because I've got to tighten them, but at least I've gotten them threaded enough where they're not going to go flying around. And as if that were not enough, this, which I managed to drop, is a tiny little flat. Being very careful not to drop this. I really don't want to go hunting for it around on the floor. This looks like a tiny little hearing aid battery, but in fact it is a flat piece, and it goes onto it goes basically inside on the hole of the bolt that is not the cone-shaped bolt that lines up with this gap. That's a very long, boy, that's a run-on sentence if there ever was one. Now, if you look at this piece, you will see something else. Put this down a minute so I can have two hands here to show you guys. Okay, so let's look at this. This tiny little piece, if you look at it, maybe I can show you guys in the, let's see if we can get some light on this to show you. It is not completely flat on this side. Now on this side, you'll see it's kind of got like a little bit of a, it's got a little bit of a little ring around the edge, which is what made me think of those little zinc batteries that are used in hearing aids and sometimes used in cameras. I don't know if this is going to, I can't really tell if this is focused for you guys. It may not be focusing very well. Let's see. There we go. You can see there's kind of a ring indentation around the back, around the edge. But when I turn it on this side, you don't see that, right? It's flat. Completely flat. Well, completely. Now, I think what I'm looking at here is something that has a bit of a curve to it. Now, why would that be? Why would there even be a need for like a little dip in it? Because when I'm looking at it in the light, you guys see that? I don't know if that's going to pick up for you or not. There's like a little indentation. And that exists because when we tighten the bolts down, the bolt, we got two. Let's ignore the one that lines up with the little tooth opening here, this little gap, because that's the cone-shaped one. And I'll show you guys where that's going to go as we install this. I know this sounds like a long, rambling ordeal, guys, but there's a lot to this, and you can get it wrong if you miss one of these steps. Okay, so the bolt here that has the flat bottom that's pushing here, why does it have this? And I believe it is because when this pushes, the side that has the little ring, you can see that facing you guys, that's going to go facing toward the bolt in the little sort of opening. You can see the opening down there, a little hole there. And then once that's there, the other side that we were discussing, or I was trying to discuss, is slightly shaped. And I don't know if this was done in the factory or if it was just did this over time, but I've got to get a little pair of something to hold this because right now it's really not picking up. Okay guys, I got some tweezers to hold this because it's just a little too awkward for me to hold with my fingers and let you see any part of it. I'm going to do this. Now look at this in the light. I've got some light here and you'll see, I believe, that it is not completely flat, and that sometimes you can just take your fingernail and kind of go across it, and it looks like it's been worn in. The reason for this is that when you start to tighten the bolt, that this little, for lack of a better word, I'm just going to call it a big flat steel washer. It is a kind of washer. It's going to be sitting in here, and when that bolt is tightened, it's tightened against a cylinder-shaped drive shaft. And I think this is done so that that it will somewhat conform. Maybe it makes it a little easier to apply the pressure to the drive shaft. That's totally my theory, and I'm totally making that up because it's the best I got right now. But if you guys have a better idea of how and why it is, let me know. Okay, so we know our cone-shaped bolt, cone-tipped bolt looks like this. Now, I'm going to take, actually before I do anything, I'm going to set this back down, and I am going to go ahead and get this little gap area cleaned. One of the things that, and it should be obvious, but if it's not, if you are doing this, do this over, and you can see I've got a little bit of, I think I've talked to you guys about this before. You see I've got some fabric here. You can do this over a tray, but really you want to do it over something that, which I normally do, but right now it would just be in the way of the camera. You would make it even harder for you guys to see what I'm doing, but you want to have it where if it falls, have it fall on, you don't need any fancy thing, just like a folded towel, something that will grab hold of small, lightweight things, because if it falls on the floor, or God forbid you're over carpet, you don't want to lose this, and you don't want to spend half the day looking for it. That doesn't sound fun. Anyway, let's go ahead, and we're going to take a cotton swab here into the alcohol, and let's see if I can go ahead and, this is probably, I don't even know if I need to do this. I don't know if it matters. But here we go. I've actually gone with the alcohol. You can see I even pulled some stuff off of there. It may just be for naught. But anyway, there we go. Okay, now I'm going to, I've already gotten oil. Have I gotten oil? Maybe I haven't. Let's go ahead and put a drop on both sides, and I'm just going to take a clean cotton swab, and I'm just going to rub it, all around. Make sure that the oil is, spread all around inside, just like this. And again, you don't need a flashlight or anything. You want to do this, and again, we're going to put oil on the drive shaft, which I'll go ahead and do now. Just put a couple of drops. Again, you're not having to put a ton of oil here. Don't forget, these Necchi hand wheels, unlike the other brands, they have that wonderful felt that holds oil that will gradually be displaced over the over these metal pieces. So it's not that you don't need a ton. In fact, all you need is just a really fine, thin film of this oil. We're not trying to drown these pieces in oil here. The whole idea of it is to simply get a nice light film spread all over, okay? So that when these pieces come back together, they should slide fairly easily. Now, you guys see this? There's one place, if you don't, let's zoom in, make sure you do. Okay, if you look closely, you'll see there's an opening, not an opening, there is an open space in this drive shaft, for lack of a better term. This area right here, this is what we want to make sure we line up. This collar, when we put it on, we're going to line it up. I'm showing you guys this ahead of time because it's going to be very hard to see once I start doing it. But remember I told you that the bolt that lines up with this little gap has that cone shaped tip. That cone shaped tip is going to be settled right in here. Okay, so these two bolts, they look similar, but they have different missions, but they're working together to hold this piece onto the drive shaft. Okay, so we've gotten stuff limited. I'm going to prop this open. I need something to hold it still. Let's see, what can I do? Just take my little ratchet here. I just need something to keep this from moving. Let's see. There we go. Well, I think there we go. Okay, so it's just out of our way. Remember, it's spring-loaded, so be careful when you pull this out. It doesn't go smacking around. Okay, we have lubricated the inside of this bushing. And now I'm going back to my tiny little washer, which almost went flying on me here. Again, because I've had to go around hunting for things before, you really want to avoid that if you can. So I've got the little tiny flat washer here. Again, just double checking. So with the gap, I know that this is my cone bolt. The other bolt, there's only one other one, and that's where we're going to put this. Now, I'm going to take it. I want the side with the little rim. Let's pick it up in the tweezers again here, because all you guys can see is a close-up of my thumb, which is not really the point of this video. All right, so here we go. We've got this. This side with the little ring that you see, you want that to be against the bolt. You want that to be down, okay? So I'm just going to put it here. And you can see it's sitting, I think you can see, yeah. It's sitting right there. And there is a little bit of oil that I put down in here, and that's good because the oil should help kind of give it just enough to hold it still, hopefully. Okay, I'm just going to take my little Allen wrench and push down. Whoops, now it's flipped up again. It might do that on you. See, now I've got the ring side that flipped around. Let's get it turned back over. All right, that's the side we want. Nope, it's not where I want it. So I'm going to take it out. This thing doesn't weigh much, and so it's easy to get it flipped around on the wrong side. And if you look down in there, you'll see now we got the ring side. So what am I going to do? I probably just want to push it out a little bit with the, just with my fingers. I can push it out with the bolt. And what am I doing? I'm going to, now of course it's got oil on it, so now it doesn't want to come out as easily. But anyway, if I need to, I'll just take the bolt all the way out. Let's do that. I'm going to do it over this tray area of the machine, because if it falls out, I don't want it going around on the floor. It's kind of funny. Sometimes these tiny little details are the things that can slow you down. But okay, there it comes. See, just as I foretold, it fell out. And that's okay, not a problem. So I'm going to put the bolt back. And there's only one hole there, so we know we've got the right bolt in the right hole. So, and again, don't do this with, I would just do it with your hands if you can. You don't want to cross thread anything. Okay, where is it? Here it is. It's got oil on it, so it's a little, wants to hold on a little bit. Now, what am I going to do? I think the easiest way to do this, my thumb and fingers are too big here. I'm just going to grab those tweezers and try again to get it on the right side. Whoops. And this thing is like a little tiny, I mean, it doesn't weigh much, so you have to really focus on what you're doing so you don't end up creating a lost piece here. Okay, now I'm just going to set it, see if I can get it to go in. And I want to make sure that zoom in here. I want to make sure that I got the right side in the right direction here. Okay, looks like I got it in there. I'm going to grab my, in order for me to see this. Okay, very good. So what I have now, I have this little washer. I do not have the ring. The ring is facing the bolt where it needs to be, and I'm just going to leave this thing be because you can go around there and fidget with it and end up knocking it, flipping it around again, which is not what we want to do. Okay, so we're just going to set this here for a moment. Now, what is my next move? Remember that this bolt right here, the one that lines up with this opening, it needs to be aligned with this groove in the drive shaft. So we're just going to do this like that. Okay. Now it wants to go, and then apparently I don't know if the drive shaft ends up. I don't know if it actually tapers toward the end, but I can tell that it doesn't want to go all the way. And there is a way for us to double check, you know, if we have it in the right place. So again, look at this, guys. The parts are sliding nice, and I have very little oil. It's, again, we're not looking for massive quantities here. We just want the oil to be, we want these pieces clean, and we just want that thin film of oil. They're still very snug. I mean, you know, they're amazing considering they didn't have lasers and computers to do this with. I'm always impressed with that. Okay, so what do I want to do here? The next thing I want to do is, I'm going to turn this back so you guys can see a little bit better. Now, what am I going to do? The next thing I want to do is I want to just very gently start to snug. I'm not really tightening this yet, because don't forget that groove in the drive shaft, if this thing starts spinning around, I'm going to lose that spot. So I've got to be able to, let's turn it back this way a little bit. There we go. It's facing you guys a little bit better. Okay, I want my bolt to be generally lined up with the groove. I'm not worried about where the position is right now, to left or right. What am I trying to accomplish here? I need to hold it still. I don't want it to wiggle. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to start snugging down, but not really tightening this bolt, because I want to make sure that that cone tip gets into that groove, right? And now I've not, you know, really tightened it. In fact, right now I can't move it. Maybe it's still too tight. Let's come back a little bit, loosen up. Okay, so now I can move it, but I think I've got my tip. My cone tip is far enough down that it's catching the groove. Notice I can do this, but it's not spinning, but I can still do this, and that's kind of what you want. Does that make sense? You want to be able to do this, okay? Now, you can't totally pull it out because the cone tip is far enough. So that cone tip helps you kind of keep it kind of sort of in the general area of where it needs to be. And now I'm going to come over here with our little piece that had the, notice I'm not going to try to turn this because I don't have everything snugged down yet, but I'm going to take my Allen wrench, and now I'm going to start. Actually, I can even do some of this with my fingers until my fingers run out of space. And I just want to get this one to start snug down. You know what's interesting is if you ever are working on a machine, let's say it's an early 1900s Singer, they're simpler. You say, gosh, you know, boy, my Singer hand, well, you just take it off and you put it on and you snug down the clutch knob and you're ready to go. And that's true. Now, but those machines didn't have the same number of features. As you add features, you add complexity. But the quality on these machines is incredible. Okay, now I'm not totally tightening this bolt down either. And why is that? Because I need to figure out where this is going to go. All right, now I'm not fully installing this hand wheel yet, but I'll show you what I'm going to do. But remember, this is clean. See how it goes? It moves. It's not, I mean, you don't have a ton of wiggle room, but see how it's moving? We cleaned the old oil off. We got a thin film of new oil on, and it's happy. Now, remember when I was talking about the hand wheel earlier, you want to be, whoops, and there went my little spring catcher. You want this bobbin winding tire right here to line up with this part, this rim on the hand wheel, because in fact you can't really see this. I'm not even sure you guys can hear. I'm running my fingernail against it. It's sort of a knurled texture surface because it's designed to have some friction with the hand wheel. But right now we know that the collar and the hand wheel they're too far to the right, because notice where the tire is hitting. We want the tire to hit this surface. So I'm going to, where is my trusty silicone mallet when I need it? Now, what am I doing? Now, what I'm doing is I'm gently tapping to move this, okay? And I can do it actually, I could do it without the hand wheel, but I need to kind of figure out where my tire needs to line up. What I'm doing, this tapping, you can do it with a rubber mallet or this little silicone. Do not use a metal mallet. You will damage this beautiful piece of machinery. You don't need to do that, okay? If you don't have a rubber mallet, get a piece of wood or something with rubber, and then you can gently tap it, but be really careful. Now, that's the other reason I didn't totally tighten these bolts, because if these bolts are tightened, this collar, this bushing will not move, because when we're done, we don't want it to move, but I've got to adjust it, if that makes sense. So right now, I want this to move somewhat. In fact, I'm going to loosen my bolt just a little bit more here. because I need it. I don't want it to move out of position in terms of missing my groove, but I need to be able to move it left to right. So I'm going to loosen them. Don't loosen them too much, or the whole thing is going to start spinning around and you'll lose the alignment of this piece with that groove. But if I can come out just a little bit, right? There's like this happy place where I know that this is still, it's still doing okay. But I can move it, I can move it. I can move it in or out. In fact, I may need to loosen a little bit more here. There we go. So I can do this, but I don't want it moving around. I don't want it to spin, and that nice little comb tip bolt is helping me. It's holding the groove. I got that, found that groove spot. Now, come over here and loosen this just a bit more. And what I'm trying to accomplish here, guys, you think, well, why can't you just do it without putting the hand wheel back on? I need the hand wheel because I need to line up, again, my rubber tire, this tire that I was talking about how good a shape it was in. So let's not worry about the tightness of this yet. What we're going to do is we're going to put our hand wheel on, and we know that it needs to come in to the left because, right, remember, when this thing is done, it actually is lined up way over here. But when we push down and it comes out and it's ready to work, to engage the hand wheel, we need this tire to engage the hand wheel. And right now, they're just grazing each other. Zoom in again. Maybe you guys can see. I don't know if you guys can see this, but the tire is just passing this. So I know this needs to come in some more. So I'm going to just gently tap it, and then the hand wheel will move with it. Okay, I'm engaging now. You guys can see I'm engaging this spot. I'd like it to come over just a little bit more. Just maybe center that tire. Get the tire centered right in the middle, or close to it, of this piece. Need something to point with here. Okay. Right here, you guys see this where I've got the tweezers around this? This is the part of the rim that the tire needs to engage in. And if we look at it straight on, yeah, there we go. That's actually, let's stare at it with a flashlight to see. In fact, I can probably come back just a bit. Whoops. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So what do I want to do now? I want to go in and start getting some more tightness to these bolts, but I don't want this to move, right? Because we're basically lining this up. And again, for those of you who have been thinking about a Necchi Supernova as a machine, that you might notice I'm just turning this very gently without banging anything. I don't want anything to move, just the bolts. And just gradually getting them snug. Okay, let's pull this out. Uh-oh, I don't want that to move. Okay. Uh-oh, I moved it. Okay, now my tire's back where it needs to be. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, right now all you can see is this light in my hand. Okay, let's come down. Here's the other bolt. I'm gonna go in and get it a little more snug. I don't want to come out a little bit here. And one thing you want to make sure is that the hand wheel and the little collar are totally snug, because remember, if it's way out here, then you're going to be misaligning the collar or the bushing. So the bushing and the, actually I think I know what might help with that. If I go ahead and get my hand wheel together with this piece, I'm wondering if that might be useful. Let's take a look. Okay, we know we've gotten all of this cleaned, so we'll pull off our hand wheel for just a moment. Okay, I've got my hand wheel. Let's see. So I'm going to put the hand wheel back into the middle here where it goes. And now, remember I told you guys this tooth, if you will, on the washer is going to line up with the collar, with that gap that I showed you guys earlier in the collar. Okay. Now, it'll only go in one. There we go. I don't know if you guys heard that click. Now you can see right here, you can if I lower this a little bit. Okay, so again, you can see here we go. Now, if you notice, there's that little opening right there, right? You see it here. As I turn, watch what happens. That little tooth is going to go right into the slot of the bushing or the shaft. Okay, let's zoom in here. You guys can see this, because this is one of those things where, you know, you can have something and you'll see. Let's take it off again for you guys. Here's the gap, right? And we want this tooth and this washer to line up. So we're going to get this onto the bushing itself, because we've done our duty and cleaned everything nice. Just hold it together, because this piece here will fall out. And then notice as I turn it, watch, boom, and there you are. And then you don't want it to move yet, and we can even take wherever it went, and I've already oiled the threads here. We can go ahead and take this, and we don't have to snug these set screws down yet, but just to kind of hold things in place. Now we know that our whole hand wheel assembly is all going to kind of stay put together. So it should not be going anywhere on us and giving us a hard time. Okay. Let's see. Oh, we'll go back and get our, what was I doing? Trying to do something to keep this thing from, there. Get it out of our way. It's a good strong spring though. 65 years old, that's pretty impressive. Still got tension on it. Okay, here we go. So we're going to, we want this to be in to line up with, well, I'm going to have to take this out anyway. I don't know why I bothered. Okay, so I've got this. This needs to line up with this. Let's move in a little further. Let's see, how's that? It looks about right. Like I say, it'll want to wiggle on you a little bit. But once I know that I've gotten this lined up, now I can go back and make sure I can see, because I'm in my own light here. Yeah, so I want it to stay put. So I'm going to pull this down. I can just hold it. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to gently, without moving the hand wheel, just turn these bolts. Just turn the bolts. Leave the hand wheel, but you don't even touch the hand wheel. And then remember, I've got that other bolt I need to snug. And just double check, make sure nothing moved to the left or right, because it'll want to do that on you. Everything looks fine. Now I've got the other bolt here. Okay. Give you guys a zoom. I got this second bolt. There's only two, thankfully. And now I'm going to go in and turn it. And it was a little more loose, because this is the one that had the little washer. Now I've snugged them, but they're still not tight. Let's go back and double check. before you get everything really good and set properly, it makes a lot of sense to just, as you go, just keep watching. And there you go. You can see if I line the camera up with the machine, and it looks off center at the moment. Let's get this centered so you guys can actually see it. And yeah, so that you're only dealing with a little less than 1/4 of an inch here. So it's not like you have a ton of wiggle room. Now I'm going to come over. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to come over and I'm going to tighten some more. If I can hold on to my now slippery. And again, while I do this, you guys watch for me. Watch that hand wheel. Make sure it doesn't move on me, because then I have to loosen things up. But I'm doing it very carefully without banging into the hand wheel, and I have the space because this Allen wrench is narrow enough. It's not, it looks like it, but it's not really touching the hand wheel. Okay, I'm going to snug it. That's pretty good. Come down, and we're going to snug some more on, this is our cone tipped one. Okay, so we got the cone tipped, and then I'm going to come back and go back to the one with the little washer. I'm going to come back and gonna snug it some more, make sure it's good. Yeah. Now, if you want to be extra careful, you can come around, and I'm going to need to put some light in here. Take a look, guys. You see where the collar or the bushing is, and look at the hand wheel, okay? See the hand wheel, the cream colored hand wheel, where it meets the bushing, okay? You don't want a big gap there, and that looks nice. That looks that I was able to keep them snugged together, right? So I'm going to have to now don the flashlight. That's one of the great things about head-mounted flashlights here. Where did it go? Okay, I'm going to point at this. I want to make sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay, here's the hub of the inner piece of the hand wheel. Here is the bushing. And they are nice and snug, because if the hand wheel were separated, you know, then it wouldn't... You want that snug. I believe that when you put your clutch washer on, it should snug everything down to that. But that's essentially it. And if you look here, if I move myself out of the way, you guys can see, you'll see that I have, in fact, a really good alignment. I want to make sure the camera's showing that off. Yeah. So now my tire and my nice textured edge that it wants to push against is now intact. And when I'm done, and you'll know, because again, when you're done winding a bobbin, you do this, and you also want to check. Notice that the tire clears. There's what is it, like a 1/16 of an inch or something. So you don't want your tire, your bobbin winder, rubbing up against the hand wheel. Then you'll know you've actually come in too far. I don't even know if it'll let you go that far. But anyway, there you go, guys. We just installed, after having cleaned and lubricated, a hand wheel on a Necchi Supernova Ultra Mark II. Not exactly, Singer straight stitch simple, but that's okay. It's a beautiful design. It's tough. It's strong. Once this is done, you're good for a while. Now, one thing to check before you're ready to start, hooking things up here. I'm just going to put that in there to get that wheel out of our way and have two hands free. I noticed that now that I've done all of this, this is shiny. That groove, that very important groove space on the hand wheel, a little shiny. I don't know if that's just the, I cannot tell if that's just the paint. It could be, but you want to make sure before you go and put a belt on, make sure that, first of all, make sure your hands are clean. You can see my fingers, I've got this oil on them. The other thing we're going to do, and we're not going to use 100% or 99% alcohol because it's very damaging to rubber. I'm going to get some cleaner, and I'm going to take a cotton swab And I'm basically going to do this. I am going to take it and just go around the edge of my tire, okay? It's not just because you're preserving the tire, which you are, but you want to make sure there's no oil on that surface, okay? And you can turn the tire. You can't really get under there, but you can just turn the tire to make sure that you've gotten everything here. You basically want to make sure there's no oil on the surface of that tire, okay? Because oil, no surprise, interferes with friction, and you want it between the metal parts of your machine. You don't want it on your bobbin tire. Now, back to what I was saying. What was I saying about the groove in the hand wheel? So let's take a look at that. Let's make sure that we haven't gotten oil on there. And this would be actually a really good spot for if we had a one of those wonderful, I'm out of them right now, those nice fine tipped cotton swabs that you can buy. You sometimes see them in the drugstore. They're really awesome. Okay, now, and by the way, another indicator, if your hand wheel is off, you'll notice it because when we go to put the belt back on, you want your belt to be in alignment. The groove and the little pulley on the motor should be in alignment with the groove and the hand wheel, which is, again, just a big pulley. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I wanted you to see this. It is, it's got more steps than some of the other vintage machines, but again, once this is done, it is good for a long time. Can you skip it? Well, you can start sewing with it, but again, if you want to use the bobbin winder, it may work fine. But again, these machines were designed to work a certain way, and they need to be maintained. In this case, the machine needed all of this taken apart because it's probably sat there for 60 years. And now it should be good to go. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you in the next video.